The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the apartment, casting warm, golden light across the polished floor. Kim Tae-ho opened his eyes slowly, feeling the familiar comfort of his soft bed. The air smelled of fresh coffee and something sweet baking in the kitchen. He could hear his wife humming a gentle melody from the other room. Tae-ho stretched and smiled. 3 years had passed since the Great Liberation War ended, and life had never been better. He was a decorated war hero, respected throughout New Seoul Station. His beautiful wife Park Seo-jin loved him deeply. They had a wonderful home in the best part of the station. Everything was perfect. "Good morning, my love," Seo-jin said as she entered the bedroom. She carried a steaming cup of coffee and wore the blue dress he loved so much. Her long black hair caught the sunlight, and her smile made his heart warm. She sat on the edge of the bed and handed him the coffee. "Good morning, beautiful," Tae-ho replied, taking the cup. The coffee tasted exactly right, just the way he liked it. Strong but not bitter, with a hint of sweetness. Seo-jin always made it perfectly. "I made your favorite breakfast," she said, touching his hand gently. "Rice, grilled fish, and those pickled vegetables you enjoy." "You have an important meeting today with the terraforming committee," Tae-ho nodded. As the head of terraforming operations for the station, he had many responsibilities. The work was challenging but rewarding. They were turning dead worlds into new homes for humanity. It was important work, work that mattered. He got dressed in his crisp uniform. The medals on his chest caught the light as he moved. Each one told a story of bravery during the war against the Vorthan Empire. The final battle had been fierce, but humanity had won. The aliens were gone now, defeated and scattered across the galaxy. "Tell me about the war again," Seo-jin said as they ate breakfast together. She always asked about his military service, always seemed interested in his stories. "We fought for 5 long years," Tae-ho began, cutting his fish into small pieces. "The Vorthons thought they could conquer us easily. They had better technology, bigger ships, more weapons. But they did not understand human determination." Seo-jin listened carefully, her eyes focused on his face. She had heard this story many times, but she never seemed bored. Her attention made him feel important, valued. "The final battle was at the Centauri Gate," he continued. "I led the 3rd Fleet against their command ship. We lost many good people that day, but we broke their will to fight. Admiral Park gave me the Star of Valor for my actions." "You were so brave," Seo-jin said softly. "I am proud to be your wife." After breakfast, Tae-ho walked to his office through the busy streets of New Seoul Station. The station was a marvel of engineering, a massive structure that housed 2 million people. Gardens and parks were scattered throughout the levels, making it feel more like a city than a space station. He passed the market district where vendors sold fresh fruits and vegetables. The old woman who sold apples always smiled and waved at him. The man who repaired shoes always nodded respectfully. Everyone knew Lieutenant Commander Kim Tae-ho. Everyone respected him. At his office, engineer Lee Dongmin was waiting with reports about the terraforming projects. Lee was a skilled worker, though he seemed nervous around Tae-ho. Many people were nervous around war heroes. "The atmospheric processors on Colony 7 are working well," Lee reported. "We should have breathable air within 6 months. The soil conditioning is ahead of schedule." "Excellent work," Tae-ho said, reviewing the documents. The numbers looked good. Everything was progressing smoothly. "What about the weather control systems?" "It's all functioning perfectly, sir. The rain patterns are establishing naturally. The temperature is stable. The colonists will be very happy." Tae-ho nodded and signed the approval forms. This was satisfying work. They were building new worlds for humanity to grow and prosper. After the terrible war, it felt good to create instead of destroy. During lunch, he met with other department heads in the station's executive dining room. The food was excellent, and the conversation was pleasant. They talked about their families, their work, their plans for the future. Everyone seemed content with their lives. "My daughter is starting school next month," said Dr. Kim Hyson from the medical department. "She wants to be a doctor like her mother." "Children are our future," replied Director Yoon Jae-min from supply operations. "We must make sure they have a good world to inherit." The afternoon passed quickly, with routine meetings and paperwork. Taeho reviewed proposals for new terraforming equipment, approved budget allocations, and discussed schedules with his team. The work was important but not difficult. He was good at his job. As evening approached, he walked home through the same streets he had traveled that morning. The vendors were still there, still smiling and waving. The shops were still busy with customers. Everything was familiar and comfortable. Sojin was waiting for him at home with dinner ready. She had prepared beef stew with vegetables, another of his favorite meals. They ate together and talked about their day. She told him about visiting her friend Minnie, who was expecting her first child. "I hope we have children soon," Sojin said, taking his hand across the table. "I want to give you a son who will be as brave as his father." "We have time," Taeho replied. "Let us enjoy our life together first." After dinner, they sat on their balcony and watched the stars. The view was beautiful, showing the endless expanse of space beyond the station. Somewhere out there were the new worlds they were creating, the colonies where humanity would flourish. "Do you ever miss the excitement of war?" Sojin asked quietly. Taeho considered the question. "No," he said finally. "War is necessary sometimes, but peace is better. I am happy with our quiet life." Sojin smiled and leaned against his shoulder. "I love you, Taeho. I love you too," he replied, meaning every word as they prepared for bed. Taeho felt grateful for his life. He had a loving wife, important work, and a comfortable home. The war was over, humanity was safe, and the future looked bright. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he was ready to face them. He fell asleep holding Sojin close, breathing. In the familiar scent of her hair, his dreams were peaceful, filled with images of green worlds and happy families. In his dreams, the war had never happened, and humanity had always lived in peace among the stars. Everything was perfect. Everything was exactly as it should be. But perfection, as Taeho would soon learn, was sometimes the most dangerous illusion of all. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday morning. Taeho was walking to work when he noticed something strange. The apple vendor who usually stood at the corner of 5th and Main was now at 7th and Park, but when he looked back, she was also still at her original location. Two identical old women selling the same apples from the same basket. Taeho stopped and stared. One of the women looked exactly like the other. They wore the same clothes, had the same wrinkled face, and even moved. In the same way, when he blinked and looked again, only one remained at the corner of 5th and Main. "Strange," he muttered to himself. "I must be working too hard." At the office, engineer Lee Dongmin gave him the daily report. But as Lee spoke, Taeho noticed something odd. The man's words seemed rehearsed, as if he had said them many times before. His gestures were too precise, too perfect. "The atmospheric processors are working well," Lee said. "We should have breathable air within 6 months. The soil conditioning is ahead of schedule." Taeho frowned. "Did you not tell me the same thing yesterday?" Lee paused for a moment, his face blank. Then he smiled. "Yes, sir. The projects are progressing steadily, very steadily." "But yesterday you said 6 months? Today you also say 6 months. Should it not be 5 months and 29 days? Another pause. Lee's smile flickered slightly. "Time moves differently when you are doing important work, sir. The schedule remains the same." Taeho wanted to ask more questions, but Lee had already turned away. The engineer walked to his desk and began typing on his computer. But Taeho noticed that Lee's fingers moved without actually pressing the keys. During lunch, Taeho decided to explore parts of the station he had never visited. As head of terraforming operations, he had access to most areas. But when he tried to enter the lower levels, his access card was denied. "Restricted area," the security guard said. The guard was a young man named Park Jin-woo. "No one is allowed below level 20 without special permission." "I am Lieutenant Commander Kim Taeho," Taeho said, showing his identification. "I have high-level clearance." "I'm sorry, sir. The lower levels are off limits to everyone, even war heroes." Taeho found this strange. In 3 years of working on the station, he had never been denied access to anywhere. Why were the lower levels different? What was down there that he could not see? He tried a different approach. I need to inspect the power systems for the terraforming equipment. Shh. That is allowed. The guard checked his computer screen. No, sir. The power systems are maintained by specialized personnel only. No inspections are scheduled. And I would like to schedule an inspection. That is not possible, sir. The systems are functioning perfectly. No inspections are needed. Feeling frustrated, something was not right. In his military experience, restricted areas always had good reasons. But no one would tell him what those reasons were. That evening, he asked Sojin about the lower levels. She was cooking dinner, moving around the kitchen with graceful efficiency. Her movements were beautiful, but they seemed smooth, too perfect. "Why do you ask about the lower levels?" she said without turning around. "I tried to go there today, but I was not allowed. I am curious about what is down there." Sojin turned to face him. For just a moment, her expression was completely blank. Then she smiled. "I do not know, my love. I have never been to the lower levels either." "I would." "You want to go there? Just curiosity? As head of terraforming, I should know about all the station's systems." "You already know everything important," Sojin said. "The lower levels are probably just storage areas and maintenance tunnels. Nothing interesting," but her answer felt wrong. Sojin had always been curious about everything. She asked questions. About his work, about the war, about the future. Now she seemed uninterested in something mysterious. That was not like her. The next day, Taeho decided to try a different approach. He would research the station's layout in the computer database. But when he searched for architectural plans, he found nothing. No blueprints, no construction records, no technical specifications. "Computer," he said to his office terminal. "Display the complete layout of New Seoul Station." "Access denied," the computer replied in its pleasant female voice. "Architectural information is classified." "I am Lieutenant Commander Kim Taeho. I have high-level security clearance." "Access denied. Architectural information is classified. Above your clearance level." This made no sense. Taeho had fought in the war. He had received the Star of Valor. He was a trusted officer with important responsibilities. What information could be classified above his level? Tried searching for information about the war instead, but here too, he found strange gaps. Records showed that humanity had won the Great Liberation War, but there were no details about prisoners, no information about captured alien technology, no records of peace negotiations. "Computer, show me the surrender document signed by the Vorthan Empire." No such document exists in the database. "Show me records of Vorthan prisoners of war." No such records exist in the database. "Show me captured alien technology." No such records exist in the database. Taeho sat back in his chair, confused. How could a war end without surrender documents? What happened to the defeated enemy? Where was the evidence of victory? He decided to visit the war memorial in the station's central plaza. The memorial honored the humans who had died fighting, the Vorthans. But when he read the names carefully, he noticed something disturbing. Many of the names were repeated. The same people appeared to have died in different battles on different dates. Private Kim Soon-jo, killed at the Battle of Rigel, March 15, 2387, read one plaque. Private Kim Seung-ho, killed at the Battle of Vega, July 22, 2387, read another. The same man could not die twice in battles for months apart. Someone had made a mistake, or someone was lying. That night, Taeho could not sleep. He lay in bed, next to Sojin, listening to her breathing, but something was wrong with her breathing too. It was too regular, too perfect. Real people did not breathe with such mechanical precision. He got up quietly and went to the bathroom. In the mirror, he looked at his own face. He saw the same features he had always seen, but they seemed strange somehow. His reflection moved. Exactly as he moved, but there was a tiny delay, as if the mirror was thinking about what to show him. When he returned to bed, Sojin was sitting up, looking at him with concern. "Are you all right, my love?" she asked. "I could not sleep. I have been thinking about work." "What kind of work keeps you awake at night?" Taeho hesitated. Should he tell her about his concerns? Should he share his growing suspicions that something was wrong with their perfect life? I have been wondering about the lower levels of the station, he said carefully. Sojin's face went blank again, just for a moment. Then she smiled. You should not worry about such things. Everything is perfect just as it is. But I want to understand some things are better left unknown, Sojin interrupted. Trust me, my love. Our life is good. We are happy. That is what matters. Her words should have been comforting, but they felt like a warning. As Taeho lay back down, he realized that his perfect wife had just told him to stop asking questions, and for the first time in 3 years, he wondered if the woman he loved was really who she claimed to be. Outside their window, the stars looked different tonight. Instead of the familiar constellations, they seemed to form patterns that hurt his eyes to look at. When he blinked, they returned to normal, but normal. Taeho was beginning to understand might be the most dangerous word of all. The breaking point came during breakfast 3 days later. Taeho was watching Sojin prepare his coffee when he noticed something impossible. A drop of coffee spilled from the cup, but instead of falling to the floor, it froze in midair for 2 seconds before continuing its fall. Sojin, he said carefully, did you see that? She turned to him with her usual smile. See what, my love? The coffee drop. It stopped falling. Sojin looked at the floor where the drop had landed. I do not see anything unusual. You must be tired. But Taeho had seen it clearly. The laws of physics had paused for 2 seconds. In that moment, he realized that his growing suspicions were correct. Something was terribly wrong with his world. After Sojin left to visit her friend Minnie, Taeho began searching his apartment more carefully. He had lived here for 3 years, but now he looked at everything with new eyes. Behind some old clothes, he found a maintenance panel he had never noticed before. The panel was small and painted the same color as the wall. It had no handle, but when he pressed on it, it clicked open. Behind it was a narrow passage that led downward into darkness. Taeho grabbed a flashlight and squeezed through the opening. The passage was barely wide enough for a person. The walls were made of metal, not the wood and plaster of his apartment. Strange cables ran along the ceiling, pulsing with soft blue light. He followed the passage for what felt like hours, twisted and turned, leading him deeper and deeper below the station. The air grew colder and he could hear a low humming, sound that seemed to come from everywhere. Finally, the passage opened into a vast chamber. Taeho stepped out and gasped at what he saw. Oh! The chamber was filled with thousands of glass pods, each one containing a human body floating in blue liquid. Cables connected to their heads, and their eyes were closed as if they were sleeping. Welcome to reality, said a voice behind him. Tae-Ho spun around. A woman in a white lab coat stood in the shadows. She was middle-aged with short gray hair. And tired eyes? She looked familiar, but he could not place her. Who are you? He asked. I am Dr. Choi Hae-won. I work in the medical section of this facility. I have been waiting for you to find this place. What is this place? What are all these people? Dr. Choi walked toward one of the pods. This is a prison, Taeho. The people in these pods are prisoners. They are humans who were captured during the war, but we won the war. The Vorthans were defeated. Dr. Choi laughed bitterly. No, we did not win. Lost. Badly. The Vorthans conquered Earth and all our colonies. These people are the survivors. Taeho felt his world spinning. That cannot be true. I remember the victory. Remember the celebration. I have medals. You remember what they wanted you to remember. The Vorthans put you in a simulation to keep you calm and obedient. Everything you think you know about the past 3 years is a lie. The station, my apartment, my wife, all fake. Computer programs designed to make you happy and compliant. The Vorthians learned that happy prisoners are easier to control than angry ones. Taeho staggered backward. Sojin is not real. She is an artificial intelligence program. Very advanced, but not human. The Vorthans studied your memories and created the perfect woman for you. Someone who would love you completely and never question your choices. The words hit him like physical blows. His beautiful wife, the woman he loved more than life itself, was nothing but computer code. Their conversations, their kisses, their dreams of having children together, all of it was fake. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Because you are special, Taeho. Most people never wake up from this simulation. They live their entire lives believing the lie. But you started asking questions. You started noticing problems. That means you have the strength to handle the truth." Dr. Choi led him deeper into the chamber. "The Vorthans keep us here to harvest our biological resources. They use our bodies to create materials for their technology. But they learned that unconscious humans produce better results than dead ones." "How many people are here in this facility?" "About 50,000. But there are hundreds of facilities like this across the galaxy. Millions of humans are trapped in simulations, believing they are living normal lives." Taeho looked at the pods surrounding them. Each one contained a person who thought they were somewhere else, doing something else, living a completely different life. "How long have I been here? 7 years? You were captured during the fall of the Centauri system. The Vorthons tried to put you in a standard simulation, but you kept fighting it. You were too angry, too stubborn, so they created a special program just for you." "What made it special?" Dr. Choi said simply. They gave you everything you ever wanted. A beautiful wife, important work, respect from your peers, a sense of purpose. They made you a hero in a war that never ended the way you remember." Taeho felt sick. Medals, the ceremonies, the grateful citizens, all designed to make you feel important and valued. The Vorthians studied human psychology for decades. They know that love and respect are our greatest weaknesses. "But I remember the war. I remember fighting. You did fight. You were a real soldier. But the war ended differently than you remember. The Vorthons won every major battle. Earth surrendered after they destroyed our main fleet. There was no heroic last stand, no glorious victory." Dr. Choi showed him a real computer terminal. "Look at the actual records." The screen displayed lists of battles, casualty reports, and surrender documents. Everything was different from what Taeho remembered. The dates were wrong, the outcomes were reversed. The heroes were dead. "This is impossible," he whispered. "This is truth. The Vorthines are master manipulators. They can make you believe anything, feel anything, remember anything. Your love for Sojin feels real because to your brain, it was real. Your pride in your military service feels real because they made sure it would." Taeho sank into a chair. "If none of it was real, then what am I? Who am I?" "You are Kim Taeho, former lieutenant in the Human Defense Force. You served with courage during the war. You were captured while protecting civilian evacuees on Colony 7. You spent 3 months in a Vorthan interrogation center before they sent you here. What happened to the real Sojin?" Dr. Choi hesitated. "There was no real Sojin. She was created entirely from your subconscious desires and memories of women you knew. The Vorthons built her to be perfect for you." The pain was overwhelming. Taeho had loved Sojin with his whole heart. He had planned to spend his life with her, to have children with her, to grow old together. Now, he learned that she had never existed at all. "How did you wake up?" he asked. "I never fully fell asleep. I am part of a resistance movement. We work to free people from the simulations and fight the Vorthans from within their own system. There are others. Yes, not many, but enough. We have been watching you for weeks, waiting for you to find your way here. We knew you were strong enough to handle the truth." Taeho looked around the chamber again. Thousands of people floating in their pods, living false lives, believing false hopes. "What do we do now? Now we fight back. The Vorthines think they have broken humanity by giving us comfortable prisons. But they do not understand that the greatest human strength is not our love or our hope. It is our anger when we discover we have been betrayed." Dr. Choi smiled grimly. "You loved an artificial woman with real emotions. That love was genuine, even if she was not. The Vorthons used your capacity for love against you, and now we will use your capacity for rage against them." Taeho stood up slowly. The grief and shock were transforming into something else, something hot and fierce and dangerous. "Tell me how to fight them. First, you must fully wake up. The simulation is still connected to your mind. You must break free completely before you can help others." "How?" You must reject everything the simulation gave you. Every comfort, every pleasure, every false memory. You must choose painful truth over beautiful lies. Taeho closed his eyes and thought of Sojin. Her smile, her laugh, her gentle touch. He had to let it all go. I choose truth, he said. The chamber around him flickered like a broken television screen. For a moment, he saw his real body floating in a pod, cables attached to his head. Then, the vision faded. He was awake. He was angry. He was ready to fight. Dr. Choi Hae-won led Taeho deeper into the hidden sections of the facility. The corridors were dark and cold, nothing like the bright, cheerful halls of the fake new Seoul station. Here the walls were made of gray metal, and the only light came from strips of blue emergency lighting. The Vorthans built this place to be efficient, not beautiful, Dr. Choi explained as they walked. They do not care about our comfort in the real world, only in the simulations. They pass more chambers filled with pods. Taeho saw thousands of sleeping humans, each one living a false life in their dreams. Some were smiling in their sleep. Others looked peaceful. None of them knew they were prisoners. How many facilities like this exist? Taeho asked. We have counted over 300 across 12 star systems. Each one holds between 30,000 and 100,000. Humans. The Vorthans have been very busy since they defeated us. The numbers were staggering. Millions of people trapped in artificial realities, their bodies used as resources while their minds lived in comfortable lies. Taeho felt his anger growing stronger with each step. They reached a heavy door marked with alien symbols. Dr. Choi pressed her hand against the scanner, and the door slid open. Beyond was a large room filled with people working at computer terminals. They all looked up as Taeho entered. Everyone, this is Kim Taeho, Dr. Choi announced. He has awakened from the simulation. A tall man with scarred hands stood up from his workstation. I am Captain Yoon Jae-soon. I was a fighter pilot before the war ended. Welcome to the real world, Taeho. Many of you are there, Taeho asked. In this facility, about 200. Across all the facilities we know about, maybe 5,000. It is not many compared to the millions who are still sleeping. Captain Yoon walked over to a large screen showing a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked the locations of known prison facilities. The Vorthans have been harvesting humans for 7 years. They use our biological matter to create their technology, our creativity to solve their problems, and our emotions to power their machines. They feed on emotions? Not directly. But they have learned that happy, creative humans produce better biological resources than sad or angry ones. So they create perfect simulations to keep us content. A woman with short black hair approached. I am Bae Min-young. I was a computer specialist before the war. I work on breaking the simulation systems. Can you free people from the simulations? Sometimes, but it is dangerous. If we move too fast, the Vorthans notice. If we free too many people at once, they might decide to eliminate entire facilities. Bae Min-young led them to her workstation. Multiple screens showed the code that ran the simulations. The programming was incredibly complex, far beyond any human technology. Your simulation was special, she explained. Most people get basic programs, simple jobs, ordinary families, normal lives, but you kept fighting the system, so they created something more elaborate. What made it different? Love, she said simply. They studied your psychological profile for months, identified your deepest needs and desires. Then they created Sojin to fulfill every one of them. Taeho felt the pain again. Even knowing the truth, the memory of Sojin still hurt. She felt so real. To your brain, she was real. The Vorthans understand human psychology better than we do. They know that love makes us vulnerable, but it also makes us fight harder when that love is threatened. Captain Yoon joined them at the workstation. That is why we waited for you to wake up naturally. Anyone who can break free from a love-based simulation has the strength to lead others. Lead others where? To freedom. We have been planning an operation to free multiple facilities at once. But we need someone who understands the deepest level of simulation control. A young man with intense eyes stepped forward. I am Nam Ki-woo. I was a soldier like you. I have been awake for 2 years. and I have been studying the Vorthon's weaknesses. What weaknesses? They have become dependent on us. Their entire civilization now runs on harvested human resources. They have grown soft and lazy, relying on their technology instead of their own strength. Nam Ki-woo showed him recordings of Vorthon facilities. The aliens moved slowly, almost lazily. Their reactions were sluggish, their movements inefficient. They used to be warriors, but decades of easy victory have made them weak. What about their weapons? Still dangerous, but they rely heavily on automated systems. Systems that can be hacked if you know how. Bae Min-young nodded. I have been working on viral programs that can disrupt their control networks. But we need someone to deliver them to the central command systems. The Vorthines have a command center in each facility, Captain Yoon explained. It controls all the simulations, all the life support systems, all the security measures. If we can take control of it, we can free everyone at once. How do we reach it? Through the maintenance tunnels. The same passages you used to find us. But the command center is heavily guarded. A woman with burn scars on her arms approached them. I am Han Yujin. I handle explosives and demolitions. I can create diversions to help you reach the command center. What happens after we take control? We wake everyone up, Dr. Choi said. All 50,000 people in this facility. Then we help them understand what has happened and prepare them to fight. Will they be ready to fight? Some will. Others will be too shocked, too broken by the truth. But humans are survivors. They see that their perfect lives were lies. Many will choose to fight for real freedom. Taeho looked around the room at the faces of the resistance fighters. They were tired, scarred, and outnumbered. But they had something the Vorthons did not expect. They had chosen truth over comfort. What about the other facilities? We have contacts in some of them. If we succeed here, we can send the signal to begin simultaneous uprisings across multiple worlds. How many Vorthons are in each facility? Usually about 500. They rely on automation for most operations. But they have weapons and training we lack. Nam Ki-woo smiled grimly. They have weapons, but we have rage. They took our lives, our families, our futures. They fed us lies and stole our reality. That kind of anger is a weapon they cannot understand. The plan is complex, Captain Yoon continued. We need to disable their communications first so they cannot call for help. Then we take the command center and free the sleepers. Finally, we seize their ships and escape to spread the resistance. What about the people who cannot handle the truth? We help them as much as we can, but we cannot force them to accept reality. Some will always prefer the simulation, Taeho thought. About this, and if we fail, then we die as free humans instead of living as content slaves. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the stakes. They were planning to attack their captors with inferior numbers and weapons. Many of them would probably die, or something else you should know, Dr. Choi said quietly. The Vorthons have been experimenting with human emotions. They want to understand what makes us fight so hard, what makes us refuse to surrender even when defeat is certain. What have they learned? That human love and human rage are connected. The deeper we love, the fiercer we fight when that love is threatened. They thought they could use our love against us, but they may have given us our greatest weapon. Taeho understood. His love for Sojin, even though she was artificial, had been real. The betrayal of that love had awakened something dangerous in him, something the Vorthons had not expected. When do we begin? Tomorrow night, the Vorthons have a shift change at midnight. That is when their defenses are weakest. Taeho looked at each of the resistance fighters. They were ready to risk everything for freedom. What do you need me to do? Lead the assault on the command center. You understand the simulation systems better than anyone. You can help us wake the others properly, and after that, Captain Yoon smiled. After that, we take this fight too. Every facility in the galaxy. We free every human prisoner. We show the Vorthons that comfortable cages cannot hold the human spirit. Make them pay for every lie they fed us, Nam Ki-woo added. For every false hope, every artificial love, Every stolen year, Han Yujin said. Taeho felt the fire growing in his chest. The Vorthons had given him everything he wanted, then taken it away by revealing it was fake. They had made him love a woman who never existed, then forced him to lose her forever. They wanted to study human emotions, he said quietly. Let them study rage. The resistance fighters nodded. Tomorrow night, they would begin their war for freedom. Taeho would lead them into battle, carrying the fury of every human who had been betrayed by false love and stolen dreams. The storm was gathering, and it would be terrible. The attack began at exactly midnight. Taeho crouched in the maintenance tunnel, with Nam Ki-woo and 5 other fighters. Through the ventilation grate, they could see the Vorthon command center. 3 alien guards stood at their posts, their movements slow and relaxed. They do not expect trouble, Nam Ki-woo whispered. 7 years of easy control have made them careless. Taeho studied the aliens through the grate. The Vorthons were tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. They wore simple uniforms and carried energy weapons. But their posture was casual, almost bored. Remember the plan? Taeho said quietly. We take the command center first. Then we wake the others. Han Yujin had already disabled the facility's communication systems with carefully placed explosives. The Vorthons could not call for help from other facilities. Captain Yoon and his team were moving through the lower levels, preparing to secure the escape routes. Ready, Nam? Ki-woo asked. Taeho nodded. He kicked open the grate and dropped into the command center. The Vorthons turned in surprise, reaching for their weapons. But the humans were faster. Nam Ki-woo stunned one guard with a captured energy weapon. Taeho tackled another, using his military training to quickly overpower the alien. The 3rd Vorthon managed to draw his weapon. But Oh Sang-woo, a former pilot, shot him with a stolen rifle. In less than 30 seconds, the command center was under human control. Bae Min-yom, we need you here, Taeho spoke into his radio. The computer specialist arrived with her team of technicians. They immediately began working at the alien control stations. The Vorthon computers were different from human technology, but Bae Min-young had studied them for months. I can access the simulation controls, she reported. But waking 50,000 people at once will be dangerous. Many will panic when they realize the truth. We have no choice, Taeho said. If we wake them slowly, the Vorthons will notice and stop us. Through the command center's windows, they could see the vast chambers filled with sleeping humans. Each person was living their perfect life, unaware that their body was being harvested for alien purposes. Beginning the wake-up sequence, Bae Min-young announced. Her fingers moved quickly over the alien controls, starting with the first chamber. The screens around the command center showed the sleeping humans beginning to stir. The first 100 people opened their eyes in confusion, looking around at the pods that contained them. Some screamed when they saw the cables attached to their heads. Dr. Choi and her medical team are ready, Taeho said. They will help the newly awakened understand what has happened. But not everyone was ready for the truth. Some people tried to close their eyes again, wanting to return to their artificial lives. Others became violent, attacking the medical staff who tried to help them. This is harder than we expected, Dr. Choi's voice crackled through the radio. Many people refuse to accept reality. They want to go back to the simulation. Keep working, Taeho replied. We cannot leave them here. Meanwhile, Han Yujin was setting explosives throughout the facility. Her job was to destroy the simulation equipment so the Vorthons could never use it again. But she also had to be careful not to harm the humans who were still waking up. The Vorthons are fighting back, Captain Yoon reported from the lower levels. They have brought in security forces. We're holding them off, but we need more time. More chambers were coming online. Thousands of people were waking up, confused and frightened. Some understood immediately that they had been prisoners. Others took longer to accept the truth. I was a teacher in the simulation, one woman said to Dr. Choi. I had 30 students who loved me. Were they real? No, Dr. Choi replied gently, but your care for them was real. That is what makes you human. My husband, my children, my home, none of it was real? No. But you can build a real life now. You can have real relationships. Not everyone could handle this news. Some people broke down completely. unable to function without their artificial lives. Others became angry, demanding to be put back in the simulation. "We are freeing about 60%, Dr. Choi reported. "The others are too damaged or too afraid to leave their pods. 60% of 50,000 is still 30,000 people," Taeho said. "That is enough to start a real resistance." The newly awakened humans were being organized into groups. Those who could fight were given weapons and basic training. Those who could not fight were prepared for evacuation. Children and elderly people were placed under special protection. "The Vorthans are adapting faster than we expected," Nam Ki-woo reported. "They are using automated defense systems we have never seen before." Through the command center windows, Taeho could see robotic guards moving through the facility. The Vorthans had activated emergency protocols that brought in mechanical reinforcements. "How many do we face?" "Maybe 200 robots, plus the remaining Vorthan guards. But the robots are not as smart as organic fighters." Bae Minyoung looked up from her work. "I have accessed their central computer. The Vorthines have been sending reports to their home world about the human prisoners. They are very proud of their success." "What kind of reports?" "They describe us as weak creatures who prefer comfortable lies to harsh truths. They think we are cowards who will never fight back effectively." Taeho felt his anger flare. "They are about to learn how wrong they are." The battle was spreading throughout the facility. Former prisoners who had learned to fight in the resistance were leading newly awakened humans against their captors. The Vorthans had superior weapons, but the humans had superior motivation. "We are not just fighting for our freedom," Taeho announced over the facility's communication system. "We are fighting for everyone who was deceived, everyone who loved someone who was not real, everyone who believed in a future that was stolen from them." His words reached the newly awakened humans throughout the facility. Many of them had lost artificial families, artificial friends, artificial loves. The pain of that loss was transforming into rage. "The Vorthans studied our emotions," continued Taeho. "They learned that love makes us vulnerable. But they did not learn that betrayed love makes us dangerous." A group of newly awakened humans joined the fight in the command center. They had been soldiers in the simulation, and their training translated to real combat. They fought with fury that surprised even the experienced resistance fighters. "We are winning," Captain Yoon reported. "The Vorthans are retreating to their ship bays. They want to escape." "Do not let them leave," Taeho ordered. "If they escape, they will warn other facilities. Our rebellion will fail." Han Yujin's explosives had destroyed most of the simulation equipment. The sleeping chambers were offline, and the artificial realities were shutting down. No more humans would be trapped in false dreams. 35,000 people are now awake, Dr. Choi reported. About 25,000 are ready to fight or help. The others need more time to recover. 25,000 fighters is more than we dared hope for, Taeho said. Enough to take the Vorthan ships and spread the rebellion. But the hardest part was still ahead. The newly awakened humans had to learn to live without their artificial comforts. They had to accept that their perfect lives had been lies. They had to find the strength to fight for an uncertain future instead of accepting a beautiful past. "Listen to me," Taeho spoke to the crowds of freed humans. "The Vorthons gave us everything we wanted. Perfect jobs, perfect families, perfect lives, but none of it was real. They used our dreams against us." Crowd was listening, some crying, some angry, all confused. "Now we have a choice. We can surrender and ask them to put us back in the simulation. Or we can fight for the right to live real lives, with real pain and real joy and real freedom." "What if we fail?" someone called out. "I'm going to die as free. Humans instead of living as content slaves." "But we will not fail. We have something the Vorthons do not understand. We have the fury of people who were betrayed by those who claimed to love us." The crowd began to cheer. Not everyone joined in, but enough did. Enough to matter. "Today, we reclaim our humanity," Taeho shouted. "Today we show the galaxy that no cage is strong enough to hold the human spirit. Today we make the Vorthons pay. For every lie they fed us, the rebellion had begun, and it would spread like fire across the stars." The final battle began in the ship bay, where the Vorthons were trying to escape. Taeho led 25,000 freed humans through the corridors of the facility, their footsteps echoing like thunder. Behind them, the empty simulation chambers stood as monuments to 7 years of stolen lives. The Vorthons had barricaded themselves around their transport ships. Their weapons were still superior to anything the humans had captured, but they were outnumbered 50-1. More importantly, they faced an enemy they did not understand. Humans of Earth, a Vorthon commander spoke through the facility's speakers. His voice was calm and reasonable. "You are making a mistake. Turn to your pods, and we will give you even better simulations. Perfect worlds where you will never feel pain or loss." Ko Seung-min, a former engineer who had awakened only hours before, spat on the ground. "I lived in their perfect world for 7 years. I had a wife who loved me, children who respected me, work that fulfilled me. All of it was lies, but it felt real." Another freed human said, "Maybe that is enough." "No," Taeho replied firmly. "Feeling real is not the same as being real. They want us to choose comfort over truth, but truth is what makes us human." The Vorthon commander tried again. "We studied your species for decades. We know what you truly want. Love, purpose, respect, peace. We can give you all of these things. Why do you choose suffering instead?" "'Cause suffering that is real is better than joy that is fake, Jang," Hyri answered. She had been a doctor in the simulation, saving lives that did not exist. "We choose to live our own lives, not the lives you created for us." The negotiation was pointless. The Vorthons could not understand why humans would reject paradise for the chance to build their own imperfect future. They thought offering better simulations would end the rebellion. "We gave you everything," the commander said, sounding confused. "Perfect families, important work, happy memories."
Why are you angry?
"Because you stole our right to choose," Taeho said. "You took away our chance to fail, to grow, to become who we are meant to be. You made us into pets in golden cages." The attack began when the Vorthons realized that negotiation had failed. They opened fire with their energy weapons, but the humans had learned to use their numbers effectively. Wave after wave of freed prisoners rushed the barricades, accepting heavy casualties to overwhelm the alien defenses. Nam Kiwoo led the assault on the left flank, his team of former soldiers moving with precision despite having been asleep for years. On the right, Han Yujin used explosives to destroy the Vorthon defensive positions. Captain Yoon coordinated the overall attack while Bae Minyoung hacked the alien computer systems. But the Vorthons had one final surprise. As the human assault pressed forward, they activated a massive holographic projector in the center of the ship bay. Suddenly, the air filled with images of the perfect lives the humans had lost. Taeho saw Sojin standing before him, as beautiful as ever. She reached out to him with tears in her eyes. "Please, my love, come back to me. We can be happy again." Around him, other freed humans were stopping their advance. They saw their artificial families, their perfect homes, their ideal lives. The temptation was overwhelming. "It does not have to end this way," Sojin said softly. "You can have everything you ever wanted. Just put down your weapons and return to the pods." For a moment, Taeho wavered. The woman he loved was offering him everything he had lost. The pain of the real world would disappear. He could be happy again. But then he remembered Dr. Choi's words. "The deeper we love, the fiercer we fight when that love is threatened." "You are not real," he said to the hologram of Sojin. "You never were. But my love for you was real. My pain at losing you is real, and my anger at being deceived is real." He fired his weapon through the hologram, destroying the projector. The artificial families and perfect lives disappeared like smoke. "Do not listen to them," Taeho shouted to his fellow humans. "They are showing us what we lost, but we never truly had it. We're fighting for the right to build something real." The battle resumed with greater intensity. The freed humans fought not just for their freedom, but for the right to live authentic lives. They fought for the right to fail, to suffer, to grow, and to choose their own path. One by one, the Vorthon positions fell. The aliens were skilled fighters, but they could not match the fury of betrayed humans. When the last barricade was overrun, the surviving Vorthans surrendered. "We do not understand," the commander said as he was taken prisoner. "We gave you paradise. Why do you choose this difficulty?" "Because it is ours," Teho replied. "Our choice, our struggle, our life." The humans captured 17 Vorthan ships. More importantly, they captured the alien communication systems and navigation computers. They could now locate other prison facilities and coordinate simultaneous uprisings. "We are receiving signals from other facilities," Bei Minyung reported. "The rebellion is spreading. Humans are waking up across 12 star systems. Not all the facilities were successful. Some rebellions failed, and the humans were forced back into simulations. Others succeeded partially, freeing only a fraction of the prisoners, but enough succeeded to make a difference." "How many people have we freed?" Teho asked. "Approximately 800,000 humans are now awake across 47 facilities. It is not everyone, but it is a beginning." The hardest part came after the fighting ended. The freed humans had to learn to live without their artificial comforts. Many struggled with depression when they realized their perfect lives had been fake. Others had difficulty forming real relationships after years of interacting with programmed personalities. "I do not know how to be happy without the simulation," confessed Lee Sujin, a woman who had awakened from a life where she was a successful artist. "Everything feels gray and empty. Real happiness is different from artificial happiness," Dr. Choi explained. "It comes from genuine accomplishment, real relationships, and authentic experiences. It is harder to achieve, but it is worth more." The freed humans began building new communities on liberated worlds. They established farms, schools, hospitals, and governments. Everything was more difficult than in the simulations, but it was real. Teho became a leader in the new human government. He helped coordinate the search for remaining prison facilities and the integration of newly freed humans. But he never forgot the lesson of his artificial love. "We must remember what the Vorthans taught us," he told the Human Liberation Council. "We are vulnerable to those who promise us easy answers and perfect lives. We must choose truth over comfort, even when truth is painful." The war against the Vorthans continued for years. Not all humans wanted to be freed from their simulations. Some preferred their artificial paradises to the harsh realities of freedom. The humans had to respect these choices, even when they disagreed with them. "Some people will always choose beautiful lies over ugly truths," Captain Yoon observed during a strategy meeting. "We cannot force them to be free, but we can make sure they have the choice," Teho replied. "The Vorthans never gave us that choice. They decided for us. We must be different." In the end, the human rebellion freed nearly 3 million people from Vorthan facilities. Millions more remained in their simulations, either by choice or because the rescue attempts failed. The Vorthan Empire did not collapse, but it was weakened and forced to retreat to distant systems. The freed humans built a new civilization based on the principle that authentic experience was more valuable than artificial perfection. They established laws protecting the right to choose difficult truths over comfortable lies. They created monuments to remember those who died fighting for freedom. Tadash Ho never found another love like Sojin. But he found something more valuable: the knowledge that his emotions, his choices, and his relationships were genuinely his own. He had learned that real love, real pain, and real joy were worth more than any artificial paradise. On the 10th anniversary of the Great Awakening, Teho stood before a memorial to the humans who had died fighting for freedom. The memorial bore a simple inscription: they chose truth over comfort, freedom over security, and authentic life over artificial paradise. As he read the words, Teho smiled. The Vorthans had tried to control humanity by giving them everything they wanted. But they had learned too late that the human spirit could not be caged. Even by the most beautiful prison, the price of freedom had been high. But it was a price worth paying because it was paid by choice rather than by force. And in the end, that choice was what made them human.